Hello and welcome to another video, and this time we're going to have a look at the Wild Beyond the Witchlight, which is the most recent adventure from Wizards of the Coast to be converted to Fantasy Grounds Unity. Now I'm really just using this one as an example to kind of answer questions which I get asked all the time. In a way, I'm making this video so I can point people to it to answer the question to some extent. So let's have a look at the module itself. If we go to the reference manual, and the first thing I would direct you to really in any Wizards of the Coast adventure would be, or any of the other books as well, would be a story entry or a reference manual entry called Using this module in Fantasy Grounds. I think just about everyone has something like this in it. Um, and in this page, you will find information which is unique to the particular module and to the way you would use it in Fantasy Grounds, which might differ from the way the material was presented in the physical book, or it includes or points you to additional material that you only can find in the digital version on Fantasy Grounds. And the first thing on this list here is the players module. Now this, I get asked this all the time. Why can't I make characters with the DM module? The, only the players module will include things like races, backgrounds, and classes in a format which can be used to create characters. Now, before and including Xanathar's Guide, which came out in 2017, the all of that information was in both the DM and the player's manual. They were duplicated, and this caused a lot of complaints about the duplication because if you DM had both open, then you had two fighters and two clerics and two dwarves, etc., etc. So in order to cut down on all of that duplication, um, only the player's manual now includes these uh, or this information in a form that can be used to actually create classes either via drag and drop or through the character wizard. So you will find the information in the DM manual. The DM manual contains all the information about the various races and the backgrounds, etc., just not in a format which you can use to actually create a character. The player's manual is defaults to shared. Obviously, the DM manual isn't. So if the DM is creating characters themselves, then they will need the player's manual open, which isn't the case for modules earlier than Xanathar's Guide. Now, the reason why I haven't gone back and removed all of this from the DM's manual in earlier books is that if I did that, then any characters which had been created using the DM version of the race or class, etc., would then break. So I'm not going to go back and change that. So if we go back to our Appendix F here, the next thing that it talks about is the story tracker. Now, the story tracker is available both in the story entries and in the reference manual, but the reference manual version of it isn't very useful because you can't edit it. But the story tracker in the story can obviously be edited. So I'd suggest that you make this just a little bit bigger and it contains it contains the version of the story tracker which appeared in the book, but it also includes things like carnival tickets and the snail race tracker and a time and mood tracker as well, which didn't appear in the book. But I thought it might be useful for DMs to have this in some kind of forum that they could utilize. So I would strongly suggest that what you do with this is find this story entry 12.01 and then just drag it down and put it into one of your quick slots so that you can get it more easily. And obviously to use it, just simply unlock it, and then that will allow you to type in the information that you want. And you'll be able to just recall that information anytime that you need it. And you'll find links throughout the adventure to whenever it refers you to the story tracker, and it will link to this page here so that it's easily retrievable from those pages. Um, the next thing that was in here is the role-playing cards. Now the role-playing cards do appear in the module as they did in the book, just sort of graphical pages. But you'll also find these role-playing cards if you go to any of the NPCs and go to the other tab, then you will also find the role-playing card is located or linked to the notes in the NPCs, and they're also linked in the story entries where the NPC first appears, or where the text says, refer to Appendix D for more information on role-playing notes, etc. Back to our using this module. Quest, that's self-explanatory. Because of the number of things that happen and the players get sent to here and to there and to do this and to do that, none of these quests actually appear in the physical book as such, but they've been created for Fantasy Grounds to help the DM and the players sort of follow through the story so that you can keep track of the things that the players are going to be doing. Now the maps, these follow the same format as you would find in any other adventure. You've got a small DM version of the map which contains things like room numbers, secret door positions, etc. And you've got a larger version of the same map for the battle map or for the players, and this one has a line of sight, a grid, and lighting added as well. Now, for a couple of the maps, if we take a look at the main sort of map here, the Witchlight Carnival map, if we have a look at this one here, um, I've added a hex grid to this map and several other of the maps, just so that you can track things a bit more easily. You can switch that off, of course, if you don't want it to just go to the unlock it and then go to the grid, and you can just hide the grid or switch it off. But it's there so that you can kind of track the players. It's not strictly necessary for this map, but it's there if you want to. Now, in addition to that, uh, there's a couple of trackers here up at the top left and the bottom right. So I created tokens for these so that you can use these tokens to track these entries. So if you go to your assets and make sure that tokens are selected, and if you search for mood, and you'll find this mood token here, and this is for this area here, so you can just drag this on to the map. It's a bit small, of course. You'll need to go in and hold down the CTRL key and use your middle mouse button to make it a little bit bigger, and it won't fit just exactly over the square or the hex because of the way hex grids work. But you can use that to track the mood whenever it's needed. And there's a similar token for this one up here, and it's called time. So if you search for time, you'll find the time tracker. And these have just been created using assets from within the book. Now you can get a little bit fancier, of course. If you just drag a token onto the map like that, then the players are going to be able to see it, and they're also going to be able to interact and move it. So if you wanted to, you could be a little bit fancier. You can unlock the map, and if you go to the layers menu, and instead of just dragging the token and dumping it on the map here, if we go back to our mood one, if you drag this into the tile section, and then you can stamp this onto the map, and you can then sort of resize it, etc. I just moved it, which was not. I've actually just added it in again, so let's get rid of that one. Yes, you can now stamp that into the map. We can go. I can actually get rid of this one. Um, and the thing about doing it this way is that the players can't interact with that because it's on a separate layer and only the DM has control of the layers. You can also even be more fancy if you wanted to and make the token visible to the GM only, so that only you can see what the mood is. And if you needed to move it, then you need to just go back into your layers and just move the token back into play mode. There is a third token here as well called party. And this one is to track the party on, you could use it on this map, it's not strictly necessary for this map, but it's useful for the other maps, which I won't show because I don't want to give away too many spoilers. And again, it can just be dragged onto the map and used to indicate where the party are. And again, if you don't want the players to see it, then use it as on a layer. And incidentally, there is a copy of this map available as well in the module, which removes all of these names if you wanted to use that version instead of this one. Now there's one final thing. If we go back to our appendix F again, one final thing is that the decals. Now, because we've got Unity now, we can do things differently as far as decals are concerned. So you won't find a decal extension for this one, and going forward, you won't find extensions either. But never fear, decals are still here. If you open up your assets and go to images and type in decal and then underscore and then witch. Let's spell it correctly. You will find the decals are included in the module in the assets folder. And to use one, you just double click to open up the preview mode and then click on set background decal. And lo and behold, the decal is now there. And you can change it, of course, by just simply clicking on any one of them, double click, set to background, and you will get the decal there. And if you go into options, you'll see that the decal is set to custom. So if you wanted to change it, you can just click on that and it will remove it. So the decals are still there, just in a different format. You won't find them in as an extension. You'll find them in the assets folder. And ultimately, that's probably going to happen to all of the modules. The decals will find their way into the assets rather than being in a separate extension. So anyway, I hope you found this useful. Do let me know in the comments below, etc. And we'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Cheers for now.